Hello and welcome back to another edition of the Deep Dive. Today we are shifting gears a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
Usually, we're wading through these really dense articles on economics or tech or history, trying to make sense of the big complex world. But today,
Today we're zooming way, way in.
we're looking at a skill that feels, I don't know, it feels small, but it is actually monumental.
It is. It's the kind of skill that seems totally trivial until the moment you actually have to do it.
Right.
And then suddenly it feels like the most difficult, high-stakes thing in the entire world.
Exactly. We are talking about the art of the introduction, specifically answering that one question that has terrified, I think, every single person listening to this right now. Tell me about yourself.
Ugh, the deceptive simplicity of it. It's like a trap.
It really is a trap. And to guide us through this, we are looking at a specific source today that I'm actually really excited about. We're going to be analyzing a podcast called Snowcat Speaks English.
Right. Specifically their segment they call English Made Easy.
Now, for our listeners who might not be familiar, Snowcat Speaks English it's just a fantastic resource. It's designed for English learners. But what I love about the episode we're breaking down today, the one with the hosts Jason and Amy, is that the advice isn't just for beginners. I mean, it's for anyone who wants to stop sounding like a robot when they meet new people.
That is the absolute key, isn't it? Snowcat Speaks English does this wonderful job of stripping away all that textbook stiffness.
Yeah.
Jason and Amy, they focus on natural communicative English. And for our purposes today, we're going to treat their conversation as a kind of masterclass in social dynamics.
We are going to deconstruct their guide to what they call the ultimate introduction. We're going to look at why we freeze up when we're asked about ourselves and how Jason and Amy suggest we can thaw out.
And I think we should mention the mission of this deep dive is sort of twofold.
Okay.
First, to help our listeners who are maybe learning English master this very specific skill. But second, to help everyone understand the psychology of a good introduction. Why do some people instantly make friends while others just struggle? Jason and Amy actually give us the formula.
They really do. And the structure of their advice is so logical. It's so clean. They break it down into 4 distinct buckets.
Right.
We've got the big 3, which is your name and where you live. Then there's occupational identity, your work, and your study. After that, personal connections, family, pets, and finally, the really fun stuff, hobbies and dislikes.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot when you list it all out like that. But as we go through it, you'll see it's really more of a menu. You don't have to order everything on the menu.
I love that analogy of a menu of yourself. Okay, so let's start at the very beginning then. The big 3. Name, origin, and home.
It starts with the name. Now, in the source material, Jason and Amy, they keep the grammar so simple. My name is, or I am.
I am Jason. I am Amy. It's clean. It's direct. But I want to pause on something Jason does right at the very start. He introduces himself, and then he just throws in this little curveball.
The nickname.
Yes. He says, you can call me Jace.
And then he immediately, and this is the best part, he immediately admits that nobody calls him that.
Right. He says, actually, no one calls me that. But let's unpack this for a second. Why would you include a fake nickname in a lesson about introductions? What's the point?
This is just a brilliant example of what linguists might call phatic communication or, social grooming. He isn't just giving you information.
Yeah.
He's setting the tone.
The tone.
Yeah, by offering a nickname, even a silly, totally made-up one like J-Ace, he's signaling to the listener, hey, I'm not a formal authority figure. I'm a friend.
It breaks the ice instantly.
It really does. And for an English learner, this is such a crucial lesson. In many cultures, introductions are, extremely formal. You give your full name, your title, maybe your rank.
Yeah.
But in English, especially in the U.S. and Australia, where Jason and Amy are from, we tend to value approachability way more than hierarchy.
So even if you don't have a cool nickname, just making a little joke about your name could work.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Saying something like, my name is Elizabeth, but that's way too long, so please just call me Liz. It does 2 things at once. It gives them the information, sure, but it also gives them permission to be familiar with you. It's like an invitation to intimacy.
I like that phrase, an invitation to intimacy. So Jason's whole J-Ace joke is basically him opening the door and saying, come on in, let's just relax here.
Precisely. Now, moving on to the next pillar of the big 3. And this is where things can get a little technically tricky, not just for learners, but even for native speakers who aren't really paying attention.
Okay.
The distinction between where you are from and where you live.
Oh, this is a classic stumbling block. I've heard this a million times.
It is. And Jason and Amy make a very clear grammatical and conceptual separation here.
Yeah.
So let's look at Amy. She defines herself as Australian. She says, I am from Australia.
But she doesn't live there anymore.
Nope, she lives in London.
Uh-huh.
Now, why is this distinction so important for, for us in this deep dive? Because it creates a story arc.
A story arc. How so?
Well, think about it. If Amy just says, I am from London, that's a static fact. Okay, she was born there, she's there now, end of story. But by saying, I am from Australia, but I live in London, she's introduced movement. She's introduced a journey.
And immediately my brain wants to ask, oh, why'd you move?
Exactly. You have handed the other person a conversation starter on a silver platter. It's the hook.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about hooks a lot today.
Yeah.
And that gap, the one between your origin and your residence, that is a massive hook.
And we see the same thing with Jason, right?
Yeah.
He's from the U.S., but he lives in Seattle.
Right. And for all the grammar nerds listening, and I know you're out there,
Yeah.
Jason and Amy offer two very specific formulas here. You can say, I am from country, or you can say, I am nationality.
So I am from the United States versus I am American.
Correct. And while they're, grammatically interchangeable, they do carry slightly different weights. I am American it's more of an identity statement. It feels a bit more defining. I am from the United States, on the other hand, is more of a location statement.
That is a very subtle difference.
It is. And sometimes, you find yourself in a room where your nationality might carry some political baggage, which happens. Saying I am from X place can feel a little softer, a little more neutral than claiming that identity with I am Xian.
That's fascinating. It's like you're distancing yourself just slightly from the label and focusing purely on the geography.
Precisely. Now, speaking of geography, let's talk about how they describe their current homes. Because this is where most people completely fail the tell me about yourself test.
They just say the name of the city and then stop. I live in Seattle.
Right.
And then there's just silence.
Awkward silence. And the other person has to scramble to say something like, oh, nice. It just kills all the momentum.
But Jason and Amy don't do that. They use adjectives.
They use evocative adjectives. Let's look at Jason's description of Seattle. He uses three key descriptors. He says it's in the Northwest U.S., he says it's very green, and then he says it rains a lot.
Rains a lot. Now, that's a negative point. Why would you include that?
Because it creates a sensory reality. If he just said, it is nice, I can't picture anything, but green and rainy, boom, I immediately see forests. I see gray skies. I see people in coffee shops. He has painted a complete picture in 3 seconds.
And Amy does the exact same thing with London. She calls it big, historic, and convenient. But then she adds that kicker. She says it's very noisy.
Laughs.
Yeah.
Yes. And she explains why it's noisy. She lives in a small apartment right near a subway station.
That detail, the small apartment near the subway, it is so grounding. It makes her sound like a real person who's living a real life, not like a travel brochure.
That is the lesson here. Do not describe your city like it's a Wikipedia page. Describe your experience of the city. A travel guide says London is cultural and vibrant. Amy says London is noisy. Amy's description is infinitely better for an introduction because it's personal.
It invites empathy. I can immediately say, oh, I hate noise too, or I bet that's convenient though.
Exactly. You are giving hooks.
Hey.
The adjective is the hook.
I also want to highlight the word very here. Jason says very green. Amy says very noisy. Is that little word important?
Oh, it's essential for a learner. In English, we use intensifiers like very, really, or extremely all the time to show emotional engagement. If you say it is noisy, it's just a fact. If you say it is very noisy, it becomes a complaint. It's an opinion.
And that's what you want.
Opinions start conversations. Facts can sometimes end them.
Wow. Opinions start conversations. Facts end them. I'm going to write that down. That's going on a sticky note on my desk.
I'm glad you like it.
Okay, so we have established who we are and where we are. Now we're moving on from the big three to the next section entirely. The occupational identity.
The classic, what do you do part.
And this is often the very first question people ask in Western cultures, isn't it?
Oh, it is. In the U.S. and the U.K. especially, your job is a huge part of your identity. In some other cultures, asking, what is your job? Right away might seem, I don't know, rude or boring. But for English learners, you absolutely have to be ready for this question.
So how do Jason and Amy handle it?
Well, Jason is an English teacher. But notice, he doesn't just give the title. He gives the context. He says he works both online and in a school.
He gives the logistics.
But then he gives the feeling. He says, I love my students because they work very hard.
I loved that line. It tells you so much about Jason as a person. He isn't some cynical teacher who hates his job. He appreciates effort. He sounds supportive.
Exactly. He is signaling his values. He values hard work. By complimenting his students, he is actually, in a way, complimenting himself. He's showing us that he's a positive, observant person.
And Amy, she has, arguably a cooler job. She's a podcast host and a writer.
But again, she doesn't just rest on the title. She explains the motivation behind it. She says she loves telling stories.
That is such a simple phrase. I love telling stories. But it connects her two jobs perfectly. Why is she a host? Stories. Why is she a writer? Stories. It gives her this unified, compelling theme.
It does. And for the listener who's trying to build their own introduction, this is the strategy. Don't just say, I am an accountant. Say, I am an accountant because I really like solving puzzles.
Right.
Don't just say, I am a nurse. Say, I am a nurse because I really like helping people. Give the why.
The why is always more interesting than the what.
Always.
Now, the source material, Snowcat Speaks English, is very inclusive. They know that not everyone has a job. Some people are students.
Yes, they have the student option.
They provide a formula for it. I study subject, or I study at institution.
Super simple, super effective. I study English at the University of London. It places you in the world just as firmly as a job title does.
But there is a trap here that they discuss, a grammatical trap that I think trips up almost everyone who speaks a Romance language like Spanish, French, or Italian.
Oh, you are definitely talking about age.
I am.
This is the classic I am versus I have debate.
So Jason says he's 32. He says, I am 32 years old.
And in English, that is the only way to say it. You are your age. The age is an adjective describing you. But in Spanish, French, Portuguese, you say, I have years. Tengo 30 años. J'ai 30 ans.
So learners will translate that directly and say, I have 30 years.
Which, to a native English speaker, sounds very, very strange. It sounds like you possess 30 individual years in a bag somewhere.
Right. So the rule is strict. I am.
I am. Or, as Jason and Amy go on to discuss, you can just skip it.
Yes. I found this part really interesting. They explicitly bring up the age taboo.
They do. Jason mentions he's 32, and he has this little moment of, existential dread. He says, time is flying. He remembers being 20.
Which is so relatable. I think we all have that feeling.
Totally. But Amy jumps in to validate him. She says 32 is a great age. This is that social grooming we were talking about again. She's reassuring him.
Right.
But then they pivot to the actual advice. Age is private. You do not have to include it in your introduction.
That's probably a relief for a lot of people, I bet. In some cultures, age dictates the hierarchy, so you have to say it so people know how to address you, how to treat you.
Exactly. In Korea or Japan, age is crucial for knowing which honorifics to use. But in English, it's almost always optional. In a professional setting, it's almost never mentioned. In a social setting, only if you want to.
So if you're uncomfortable with your age, you can just delete that line from your personal script.
Just delete it. No one will ever notice it's missing.
Okay, let's move to the section that I think actually builds the most connection. We've done the facts name, place, job. Now we're getting into the real heart of it. Personal connections. Family and pets.
Yeah, this is the warmth section. This is where you stop being a worker or a citizen of a country and you start being a human being.
And the source material highlights two very different family structures here, which I thought was a great choice. Let's start with Amy.
Amy has a small family, just one sister.
Named Lily.
And she tells us Lily is a nurse. And then she adds that it's a kind job.
There's that emotional labeling again. She doesn't just say nurse, she attaches a value judgment to it. Kind.
Which tells us that Amy herself admires kindness.
Yeah.
It reflects back on her. Then she zooms out to her parents. They're back in Australia.
In a big house with a garden.
And her dad is retired. Her mom is an artist. I mean, this paints such a serene picture, doesn't it? The retired dad, the artist mom, the garden. It just sounds so peaceful.
It really does. It sounds like a little sanctuary. Now, compare that to Jason's family.
Chaos.
Control and chaos. He has a big family, 2 brothers, 1 sister. But what I loved was how he specifically identified himself within that group.
He calls himself the middle child.
The middle child. Now, for our international listeners, does that label actually carry weight? Is that a thing?
Oh, absolutely. The middle child syndrome is a very well-known cultural trope in the West. The whole idea is that the oldest kid gets all the responsibility, the youngest gets all the attention, and the middle child gets, well, ignored or has to fight for attention.
So when Jason says, I am the middle child, he's invoking that entire cultural history. He's making a little joke about his own personality.
He says it's hard sometimes. He's playing right into the trope. It's self-deprecating humor, which is so popular in English-speaking cultures, it makes him seem humble and funny.
And he even lists his siblings' roles, the engineer brother, the younger ones in school. It creates a sense of this busy, active family network.
Right. But let's be honest, the family stuff is nice, but the real power move in this section was the pets.
The pets are the ultimate cheat code for introduction.
They really, really are. If you want someone to like you, just tell them about your pet. But Jason and Amy don't just say, I have a pet. They give us characters.
Let's analyze Jason's cat. What do we know about him?
His name is Leo.
Good name. Solid name.
He is orange.
Visual.
And crucially, he is very fat.
Very fat.
And he loves to eat.
Okay, so why is that so much better than just saying, I have a cat?
Because I have a cat is a statistic. I have a fat orange cat named Leo who loves to eat is a story.
Right.
It creates an image. You can see Leo. You can imagine Jason trying to put Leo on a diet. You can imagine Leo stealing food off the counter. It instantly humanizes Jason. It shows he has this deep affection for this silly little creature.
It's endearing. We just instinctively like people who love their pets.
We do. And Amy's dog, Bella, she's a golden retriever. And the adjective she uses there is energetic.
Energetic. And Amy proves it with a very specific detail. She says she walks Bella at 6 a.m. every single morning.
And Jason's reaction here is just gold. He says that is too early.
He is horrified by the idea.
But this little interaction is so important for the learner to notice. This is what we call banter. Amy shares a detail, the 6 a.m. walk. Jason reacts with an opinion. That's too early. This is how a monologue turns into a dialogue.
If Amy hadn't included that 6 a.m. detail, Jason would have had nothing to react to.
Precisely. The detail's the hook. If she just said, I have a dog, Jason would say, cool, but I walk her at 6 a.m. Now we have a debate. Are you a morning person or not?
That's the secret, isn't it? You're just dropping these little breadcrumbs for the other person to pick up on.
You are making it easy for them to talk to you. And that really is the definition of a good conversationalist.
I love that. Okay, so we've covered the warm and fuzzy stuff. Now we are heading into the final section, personality and preferences.
This is where we get into hobbies, likes, and the very surprising category of dislikes.
Let's start with the likes. Jason loves cooking.
But he gets specific, not just cooking. Italian food.
Pasta, pizza, lasagna. He lists all the carbs.
And again, specificity allows for connection. If he just says, I like cooking, maybe I assume he likes baking cakes or something. But Italian food. Now we can immediately talk about the best pizza place in town. We can argue about how to make a good sauce.
He also mentions he likes swimming to relax after work.
Which is great because it balances out the energetic teacher persona. He works hard with his students, and then he swims to chill out. It shows a balanced life.
And Amy. She's the nature lover.
Hiking and photography. Taking pictures of trees and flowers.
It fits her whole writer-artist vibe perfectly.
It really does. It's very consistent character building.
But then we get to the dislikes. And I have to say, this kind of blew my mind a little bit. The source material actually recommends telling people what you hate.
I know. It sounds so counterintuitive, right?
No.
We're all taught to be positive. Smile. Be nice.
Right. Why would I introduce myself by immediately complaining about something?
Because constant, unrelenting positivity feels fake.
Oh.
I mean, if someone says, I love everything. I love my job. I love the rain. I love traffic.
Yeah.
Do you trust that person?
No.
Oh, no.
Not at all. I think they're a robot or they're trying to sell me something.
Exactly. Vulnerability builds trust. And admitting you dislike something is a tiny form of vulnerability. It shows you're human. It shows you have boundaries and preferences.
Okay, so let's look at what they dislike. Amy dislikes cold weather.
Which makes perfect sense. She's an Australian living in London. It reinforces her origin story. It reminds us she's an expat who's probably freezing.
And she dislikes loud music when she's trying to read.
Which, again, reinforces her writer/intellectual persona. It all fits.
But Jason goes for the really universal dislikes.
Traffic jams.
Yeah. Sitting in a car for an hour is boring. I mean, you can't argue with that.
This is a very strategic dislike. Who likes traffic jams?
Nobody.
Nobody.
So by saying I hate traffic, Jason is basically inviting the listener to join his team. Team anti-traffic. It creates an instant alliance. Oh man, me too. The traffic on the highway is just terrible. Boom, you're bonding.
That is brilliant. You're bonding over a shared misery.
It is one of the strongest forms of bonding there is.
But then he takes a bit of a risk. He shares a more controversial dislike.
The mushrooms.
He hates the taste of mushrooms.
And this is where the magic happens in the podcast. Amy immediately pushes back. She tells him he is missing out.
She judges him for it.
Playfully, of course. But look at what just happened. They are now arguing about mushrooms. The tension in the room has completely vanished. They aren't doing a formal interview anymore. They are just two people chatting about pizza toppings. So the dislike section is actually a tool to shatter formality.
Yes, it lowers the stakes.
Yeah.
If we are arguing about mushrooms, we aren't worrying about our grammar or our status. We're just having fun.
That is such a key takeaway. Don't be afraid to be a little bit of a hater.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
Don't say I hate people. Say I hate mushrooms. You got to keep it light.
Good distinction. I hate people might not get you the job.
No, probably not going to work out for you.
So, okay, we have dissected all the parts. We have the name with the funny nickname joke. We have the origin versus residence. We have the job with the why. We have the family and the fat cat. We have the hobbies and the mushrooms.
We have all the puzzle pieces. Now we have to put them together.
This is the synthesis. In the source material, Jason actually delivers the full monologue. He combines everything we just discussed into one single paragraph.
And it is so worth hearing how it sounds when it all flows together.
I have the transcript right here. Let me read it out. And I want you and our listeners to pay attention to the rhythm of it. Here is Jason's full intro. Hi, everyone. My name is Jason. I'm from the U.S. and I live in Seattle. I am 32 years old and I'm an English teacher. I have a big family and a fat cat named Leo. In my free time, I love cooking and swimming, but I really don't like traffic jams or mushrooms. Nice to meet you.
It's so smooth, isn't it?
It is. It doesn't sound like he's just reading a list of bullet points. It actually sounds like a personality.
And notice the balance. He goes from fact, name, to fact, location, to fact, Job. Then he pivots to warmth, family cat. Then he pivots to personality, cookie mushrooms. It's a perfect bell curve of intimacy.
A bell curve of intimacy. I like that. You start formal, you get personal, and then you kind of end with a joke.
Exactly. And then he has that classic closer, nice to meet you.
Which signals, okay, I am done talking, now it is your turn.
Right. But imagine if you tried to say everything. Hi, I am Jason. I am 32. I have two brothers. One is an engineer. My other brother is in school. I like lasagna, but not really spaghetti. My cat is orange and fat.
It would just be too much information.
It would be totally overwhelming. And this is the final and maybe the most crucial piece of advice from Amy in the source material.
The strategy of selection.
Amy says, don't try to say everything.
You have to edit yourself. You have to be your own editor.
You do. You need to pick the highlights. The Snowcat team actually gives a very simple formula for beginners who might be feeling totally overwhelmed by all these details.
What's the emergency formula?
It's just three things. Name plus country plus one thing you love.
That's it.
That's it. Hi, I'm Amy. I'm from Australia, and I love hiking.
That is so manageable.
It is. And it works. It gives the name, it gives the origin hook, and it gives the hobby hook. It is more than enough to start a real conversation.
So you don't need to memorize the whole fat cat script if you aren't ready for it.
No. Save the fat cat for the second date.
Laughs. Good advice.
And the source material actually ends with a call to action. They encourage their listeners to go into the comments section of their podcast and write their own introduction using that simple structure. My name is, I am from, I like.
That's a great way to practice without the pressure of having to speak. You can write it, look at it, edit it.
Writing is the rehearsal for speaking.
Huh.
If you can write it clearly, you are halfway to being able to say it clearly.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Snowcat Speaks English, let's just zoom out. What's the big picture here?
The big picture is that the tell me about yourself question is not a test of your biography. It is a test of your relatability.
It's not about facts, it's about hooks.
Exactly. We learned that a silly nickname signals friendliness. We learned that distinguishing between where you're from and where you live signals that you have a story. We learned that very green is so much better than just green.
We learned that we should share why we love our jobs, not just what they are.
We learned that admitting to being a middle child or having a fat cat makes us human and relatable.
And we learned that hating mushrooms is a perfectly valid and useful personality trait.
Perhaps the most important one.
It really shifts the perspective, doesn't it? Instead of thinking, okay, what do they want to hear? You should be thinking, what can I give them to hold on to?
That is a beautiful way to put it.
Yeah.
What can I give them to hold on to? You're giving them little gifts, a joke, a detail, a complaint. You're giving them the tools they need to build a conversation with you.
It makes the whole process feel less like an interrogation and more like, well, like an introduction.
Which is exactly what it should be.
Before we sign off, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought to chew on. We spent a lot of time today discussing that dislikes section, the traffic and the mushrooms.
It was definitely the most dynamic part of the source material.
It was, and it makes me wonder, why is it that we often seem to bond faster over negatives than positives?
That is a deep question.
I mean, is it because stating a dislike requires more courage? Or is it because, I don't know, we are all secretly looking for someone to complain with?
There's actually a theory in psychology called shared antipathy. The idea is that disliking the same thing creates a stronger in-group feeling than shared affection does.
Really?
Yeah. If we both love jazz, that's nice. We can talk about it. But if we both passionately hate that one specific song that's always on the radio, we are brothers in arms.
Brothers in arms against the bad song. I love that. So maybe the dislike section isn't just a funny little quirk of Jason and Amy's advice. Maybe it is actually the most sophisticated social tool in the entire box.
It's the shortcut to the in-group, but, use it wisely.
Something to think about the next time you meet a stranger. Maybe you lead with the traffic.
After your name, please.
Right. Name first, traffic second. Well, a huge thank you to Snowcat Speaks English for the source material today. It was a real joy to unpack. And to our listeners, good luck with your introductions. Go forth and be interesting.
Practice your hooks. You've got this.
Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. We'll see you next time.